Welcome to the CMO Spotlight. And today I'm here with Joshua Sims Sr. Welcome, Joshua. So excited to have you here.
Joe, thanks for having me, man. Excited to be here. Thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely. So Joshua was the head of marketing for Big Chicken. And previous to that, he had a senior marketing role at Bojangles Restaurants. So he's been in the restaurant business for a little while from a marketing standpoint. But I understand, Joshua, that you just are starting a brand new job with a new company. So tell us about the company that you're joining and a little bit about the role there.
Yeah, Joe, man. So I'm excited, man. And this is actually the first place that I'm actually making this announcement publicly. I enjoyed my time at Big Chicken, man, as head of marketing. Really did some great work there. Of course, I enjoyed my time at Bojangles, but I have now been installed as the new chief marketing officer for Noble Foods and Pursuits, based here in Charlotte. Famous for their uh, roosters, their Noble's Grill. Also, now we have Bossy Beulah's, which is a quick service restaurant, fast casual restaurant, honestly. And then the Jimmy, and as well as a host of other restaurant concepts, Noble Smoke. Man, it's some very great food, great company. Happy to be a part and happy to be making that announcement here with you.
Awesome. And so I have to do some full disclosures here. First of all, Joshua and I grew up in the same hometown of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, is number one.
Yeah.
Number two, in college, I waited tables at Noble's Grill in Winston-Salem. And so I know Jimmy Noble, who is the founder of Noble's
Yeah.
Grill. The original restaurant was J. Basil Noble in High Point, North
It
Carolina. And
was.
I did a stint at the Furniture Mart, waiting tables at J. Basil Noble in the Jazz Cellar. And I may or may not have dumped an entire bowl of soup on a patron accidentally when I was
Oh,
a young waiter, and
oh
the
man.
man was very gracious, and I didn't get fired instantly. But I learned a valuable lesson about being careful. But anyway, so I'm very familiar with the Noble restaurants, brand, and that's very exciting that you're joining that group. So I wondered if you could tell us a little bit just about Big Chicken and
Yeah.
also about Bojangles, or maybe just let's start by talking about your path that led to Noble
Yeah.
at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm glad to get into it. Me personally, uh, we just talked about it, man. You just highlighted it, man. Originally from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. You and I both are from the same place. Being from there is a absolute honor, man. When you start thinking about the guys, the likes of Jimmy Noble, who kind of came up in that triad area, that Piedmont
Hmm.
triad area, man, it's a special place. And so after I went there, I ended up moving to Wilson, North Carolina to stay with my grandparents to finish high school. And from there, I matriculated at North Carolina Central University, where I studied business, played college football there, and had an opportunity to not only play college football there, but also study business and get really well and ingratiated with the community, the business community that was there in Durham. And if you know anything about Durham and the history of Durham, Durham is a special place as it pertains to business and entrepreneurship. And so, upon kind of foregoing my senior year of playing football at North Carolina Central, took an opportunity, an internship with Adidas, and then from there, kind of got hit the ground running. Went straight to the agency side right out of undergrad. Managed about 25 different clients across all three agencies that I worked at, and became known as the kid that doesn't get any sleep. I genuinely kind of tried to weave my real life into the thing that I loved, which was business and marketing, in particular on the media and advertising side. I then, after being there and finishing up with Lewis Advertising, which was the last stop I took on the train, took a little bit of time on the founder side. My wife and I founded a concept called Modern Revival, which is an athleisure retail brand that we scaled to multiple locations. And then in 2022, we sold that concept. And so then I was back kind of sitting at the house. Wife was like, "Man, when are you going back outside? What are you doing?" And found myself found myself in an opportunity, saw an opportunity with Bojangles, which was again, as a North Carolina kid, man, and a man from the state of North Carolina. Bojangles is a staple. Grew up on Bojangles, grew up eating
Yeah.
Bojangles after football games and little league football
Yeah.
games, and opportunity presented itself, and I was able to be introduced to the magnificent Marianne Moldenhauer, who is, without a shadow of a doubt, man, probably one of the best when it comes to media and advertising in the entire country. This lady took me under her wing, helped me to understand it from a different perspective. For my first time being on the actual brand side, on the restaurant side, I had
Hmm.
always managed brands on the agency side, of course. Dealt with Carl's Jr.'s and Hardee's, dealt with Krispy Kreme on the agency side, dealt with Chipotle on the agency side. So I dealt with the agency side of food and restaurant, but finally getting a chance to be on the brand side. And then it was with Bojangles. And so Marianne did a great job of helping me to get prepared. And then went down in New Orleans, man, spoke at a conference, had never heard of Big Chicken a day in my life, did not know who was behind it. And then my predecessor, who was in the role before me, happened to be there and said, man, I think you would be perfect to take this
Mm.
role. I'm getting ready to go take another opportunity. I think you'll be perfect to take this role. Let me connect you with the CEO. And oh, we happen to be founded by the one and only Shaquille O'Neal. And so from there,
Right.
man, that was more than enough that I needed to hear, man. Shaquille is a phenomenal founder, phenomenal executive, man, has an incredible business acumen. And we accomplished a great ton of things down there at Big Chicken, man. I helped to kind of reinvigorate their digital profile and their digital portfolio. And then this opportunity, I grew up knowing Jim Noble, knowing about Jim Noble. If
Mm.
you're from the Triad area, you know who Jim Noble is, man.
Yeah.
He's a legend and a business savant. And so the opportunity came available for the CMO role here. Didn't know how many ways that I had actually crossed paths with the president of this company. But we had crossed paths in many different other ways and just never had a chance to formally introduce ourselves to each other. And then, boom, man, opportunity came and I took advantage of the opportunity. So this is where I am now.
Awesome. Well, I remember even a little bit of background about Jim Noble was that he was an NC State agriculture grad,
Yeah.
and he was one of the very first, I think maybe in the country, but certainly in the Southeast, to really do farm to table because he grew his own herbs, he grew his vegetables, he grew like chickens, and then the food that we served in Noble's Grill back, and I was there in the early '90s,
Wow.
um, was food that he was growing in a farm and in a garden, in a farm, and bringing it straight to the restaurants and serving it, which was amazing. And obviously, many years later, that concept of farm to table caught on in a big way, and growing, serving food that's grown more locally versus, comes off of a truck or something like that.
Correct.
So I'm curious if you'll just tell us, step back a minute and tell us a little bit about the organization Big Chicken, and maybe even a little bit about Bojangles. Like, how big was as Big Chicken as an organization? How many restaurants and stores are there? And then in like Bojangles, what's the size and scale of that generally?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, that's a great way to be able to kind of talk about the starch difference between those two organizations, right?
Yeah.
Bojangles, this southeastern staple, very similar. You're talking about Jim Noble and in the southeast, he really being one of the innovators of farm to table, and
Hmm.
Bojangles being one of the innovators in the southeast, in particular in the Carolinas and surrounding states of this, really really great chicken at a really great price. I mean, Bojangles is a 900 plus unit system that now
Mm.
spans across from east to west. I think they just
Yeah.
opened up in Las Vegas. They have an opportunity to open up in Los Angeles here. This is a big time company, man. That's really making
Yeah.
some big time moves, and they're occupying and taking a little bit of that market share from your traditional competitors. Your Chick-fil-A's, your Popeyes, your KFC's. They see Bojangles coming. Big Chicken was a little different, man. A full service concept that kind of had a lot of the sentiments of a quick service restaurant. Few of the restaurants, and it was about 50 some odd restaurants across 14 states. All of the Carnival Cruise lines, the
Mm.
non-traditional restaurants that were inside of the St. Louis Cardinal Stadium, inside of the New York Islanders arena. Like, these are things that they're just very very different, very robust. And then Big Chicken also just got done going through a partnership acquisition with Craveworthy Brands, which is Greg Majewski and those guys, and that is a great partnership between them. And so going from a 900 unit system where I was senior media manager, controlling all digital advertising, to going to a 50 plus unit system in
Right.
Big Chicken, but now I'm head of marketing and really controlling the entire
Right.
efficiency of the marketing department was somewhat of a difference, man. It was different. It could have been a culture shock, but fortunately for me, man, Shaquille and the ownership group and the leadership there. I want to make sure I give a special shout out to Josh Halpern, who's the CEO there at Big
Mm.
Chicken. Gave an incredible warming, onboarding, and process from start to finish while I was there, man. And if this opportunity had not come open, I probably still would be there, and I would have no
Yeah. Right.
problem with being at Big Chicken for a very very long time, man. But then this opportunity came available. It allowed for me to be able to get back home, get a little closer to my wife and kids. Everybody, for the most part, knows I have a wife and children. We have a child on the way. And so this allowed for me to get back home and get a little bit closer to home. And while also still being a super fan of Big Chicken and being an incredibly super fan of Bojangles. Listen, anytime I'm anywhere close to any Big Chickens, trust me, I'm going to eat. And then Bojangles is right down the street both ways, man. So I can go get Bojangles anytime.
Get a bow box when you need it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Got to get a bowl
Right.
box.
Right. All right. So I'm curious if there's a piece of advice that you either wish you'd gotten early in your career, or maybe it's advice you'd give to a young marketer that's just starting out in their career.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest advice that I would give to a young marketer, man, is one, the how you do anything is how you do everything.
Mm,
The amount of hard work that you're going to have to apply uh, in your formidable years, your young years being in the industry, it can't be duplicated with other things. You cannot
hmm
duplicate hard work with smart work, with tech, with even with AI. I know AI is incredible, but there's a ton of this stuff as far as for building strategies, building efficiencies, knowing how to operate a department that's just going to take you to work your butts off.
Yeah.
There is no substitute for really the experiences that you gain from working your butts off, putting in those late hours, putting in those early mornings. That's just a part of it. And that was something that I just
Yeah.
kind of naturally got being a college athlete, man, being a college football player,
Right.
to
Right. You were used to
understand
the discipline and the
I was
reps.
I
Yeah.
was used to it, man, getting those
Yeah.
reps in. Second thing that I would tell them is relationships are everything. Build organic relationships, man. Don't
Mm,
enter into relationships with folks looking for something, looking for it as the quintessential networking opportunity to get yourself from
hmm
one opportunity to the next. And then the last thing is when you enter into these rooms, be your most genuine self. They
hmm
are every single person in every single organization that is even interested in you. They're interested in who you are genuinely. And
mm,
what you genuinely bring to an organization and to a department or to a team is what's going to create results. That's where you'll see the performance results. We all have all of the correct kind of corporate jargon, the industry jargon, the terminology. Everybody learns that stuff. But that's not the thing that people are buying into you for. And
mm,
understand you are, just as important as it is for them to interview you, you're interviewing them. It's
yeah.
super important for you to understand that the person that you genuinely are, it fits with certain organizations. And then there's certain organizations that it doesn't fit with. And that's okay. And so
Yeah.
understanding those three things, those would be the things that I would say, clearly you're going to study up. I know folks are going to study up. They're going to learn the terminology. They're going to learn the jargon. They're going to learn their way through how to create results. Just based off of each situation will be different. But those three things there will be the things I would tell any professional coming into the industry.
Awesome. And I don't think any of those things are things that require a specific skill set or specific
Correct.
smarts or anything. I mean, anybody can apply those three things and benefit their career. All
Yeah.
right. So I think every single person has a superpower of one kind, and I'm curious what you've been told your superpower, what you feel your superpower is.
Yeah. It's the humanization of marketing.
Mm,
In today's time, and I've been around the entire country at different panels, at different I've headlined and keynoted some speeches as well, and my entire speech is about the humanization of marketing, right? And
mm,
especially in this day and time. So my superpower is that I don't meet a stranger. Every single person, doesn't matter where they come from, who they are, what they look like, none of those
yeah.
things matter to me. Being able to connect with people on a human level, and then utilizing our human connection to be able to say, hey, I appreciate the time that I've had with you. Same here, Joe. Before we wrap up today, man, I'm going to say I appreciate the time, man, because we only get a finite amount of time with each human being. And whether it's me trying to get you or persuade you to come and check out one of the restaurants, or it's just me trying to persuade you to come and listen to this interview and this conversation, or whether it's me just trying to say, man, I want to just say hello. For me,
Yeah.
the humanization of marketing is really my superpower, man. It's my ability to connect with any person on any level about anything. And so for me, I've been able to bring that superpower to every single organization I've been a part of, whether it's on the founder side when I had Modern Revival and my wife and I were in there and connecting with families and connecting with people on a day-to-day basis. We saw a ton of people make purchases and sales from us inside of all of our stores because we humanized our relationship with them. It wasn't transactional. It wasn't all relationship. but it was a combination of both. And that's what humanization is. That's what it is.
Hmm.
We understand that we're here for a purpose. We know that there's a purpose here, but let's not focus only on the purpose. We recognize that we would love to have that relationship with you, but let's not only focus on the relationship. Let's have some human interaction and engagement.
Hmm.
And if I can
Hmm.
convince you to come check out one of our buttes, check out our sandwiches, our delectable wings or our bites, or go to Noble Smoke and check out our barbecue, anything that I could be able to do inside of that conversation to persuade you because you just like me as a human, I've done my job as a human being.
Hmm. I love it. I love it. So I'm curious if there's some specific values that either you want to demonstrate as a leader or you would demand of people that are on your team.
Yeah. For me, it really starts with, what I was talking about as far as the advice that I would give to anybody coming into the industry. I kind of mirror what I would tell anybody, I would tell everybody. And for me, whether you're on my team or not, but specifically if you're on my team, I'm going to focus on the details. For me, the opportunity is in the details. Most people from the South say the devil's in the details. When I say the
Yeah, right,
opportunity is in the
right. It's a
details, right?
negative way of saying
Yeah,
it.
it's a
Right. Yeah.
negative way of saying it, right? Like, no, I want to say the opportunities in the details. I
Yeah.
don't focus on the negative. I don't believe that anything is a challenge. I look at it as an opportunity. So when we're entering and we're focusing on various different things, whether it's kind of raising the profile from a digital standpoint, driving digital sales, focusing on KPIs from advertising standpoint, growing local store marketing. All of these are things that I want to feel and see the details. I'm still kind of old school in a way. I like to get briefs,
Hmm.
so I like for us to have well detailed briefs for me to be able to know where are we going. Where do you see we're going? Not
Yeah,
let
yeah,
me
yeah.
not tell you. I can give high level strategy of what we're trying to accomplish as an overall department. But what I look for in professionals that are on my team is give me the details from your perspective. What do you think
Hmm.
we can accomplish? How do you see that we can get there? And then I'm going to do everything I can to support what they are doing from that process. But the opportunity is in the details. And so I'm an extremely detail oriented leader. I expect for people who are on my team to be extremely detail oriented people as well, because there's a time where that's going to flip. I'm going to move out of their way, stop being their leader, and then they're going to be the leader in a department or inside of a company of their own right. So for me, it's about preparing them for the spot when they get there. And that can only happen by being extremely detailed and being forethought, man. Having the ability to see down the periscope, having the ability to see down the tunnel and see what the results can be. And then it's the willingness to leave a little bit of room for some flexibility, man. I know we're going to
Hmm.
set parameters, we're going to set guardrails, but we got to have a little bit of swag, man. We got to be able to take a little bit of chances,
Hmm.
take some risk, and opportunity comes on the side of that as well. So all of those are really the pillars by which I kind of lead my team. And then, there's expectations and all of those things that fall in place, but they all deal with detail. They deal with leaving a little bit of room for swag, and then also being able to kind of see down the periscope of what our results can possibly be.
Absolutely. I love that too. Okay. So at Setup, we help the world's best marketers think through their marketing ecosystem. It often means we're marketing matchmakers connecting brands and agencies together. And, we don't live on the agency side. We're not an agency. We don't live on the client side. We're not a brand. We kind of live in that space in between. So we think a lot about that relationship between brand and agency. So I'm just curious about what your philosophy is on working with agencies. You obviously probably worked with some agencies, definitely at Bojangles and maybe at Big Chicken also. So
Yeah.
just generally, how do you work with agencies?
Yeah, I really approach agencies like an extension of our team. And I know that that's very difficult. I also owned an agency for a while as
Right.
well. So I understand that it's incredibly difficult for agencies who have multiple clients in multiple spaces to be seen on the brand side as an extension of their team. But since I've come to the brand side, I now understand why you must see them as an extension of your team. And so for
Hmm.
me, all of my agencies at both spots, I have what's called an all hands meeting with all of our agencies where we can all be on the same playing field. When I was at Big Chicken, we had that once a week. And then on my marketing leadership council was also some members from other agencies. I wanted them to be
Hmm.
able to feel like they had some say so, some autonomy into the direction that we were going in, because it's not enough for me to just give them the work. Get an MRF in, get a marketing request form in, and then we just distribute it out to the agencies. I don't think that that's fair. I think in a
Yeah.
modern day sense, and we start talking about the humanization of marketing, for me, it's about being able to react and being able to adjust to the modern day sense and where we are now. and more humans have the ability to be able to feel like they're part of the team. Most agencies are getting more hours now billed, and they're spending more time on it with their brand clients than ever now, because there are
Hmm.
so many solutions that need to be taken care of every single day, every single period, every single month and quarter, that we don't have the affordability now not to be in coordination with each other on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. And so I treat our agencies like any agency I'm working with. I treat them like an extension of my team.
Yeah, that's great. So are there certain disciplines of marketing that you feel you generally would never want? Now, never is a strong word, but are there certain disciplines that you feel are more important to keep in-house? And then are there certain disciplines that you feel you really benefit from the outside perspective of an agency?
Yeah, yeah, that certainly are. For me, those the pieces that I feel like, or the parts that I feel like that should absolutely be internal are creative and social,
Mm,
because things are changing so much creatively and socially. And listen, I'm honest about the fact that like creative agencies are naturally supposed to be slower than the brand. Because the brand is always going to be thinking quickly about, oh man, we want to do this, and this. And
right, right, right,
it's
right.
the agency's responsibility to say, whoa, whoa, pump the brakes. You sure you want to do that? The brand is constantly staying on top of trends, constantly looking at what's happening on social media platforms. They're looking at what can we jump in here somewhere to be able to take advantage of something to go viral. That's the brand's responsibility, and the agency is supposed to be a creative agency, a really really good creative agency. Takes a step back and they start from the brief level. Hey brand, I understand you want to do all these things, but let me just bring you back to the brief that you developed and that we talked about what's most important for you during this period, during this quarter, and during this month, and all that stuff. And when we start talking about me needing some room for some swag and needing some room for some flexibility and some creative, not even necessarily creative autonomy, but just some flexibility creatively.
Hmm.
That's how I feel like creative as well as social now should be elements that we should have internal. Externally, digital, anything dealing with third party delivery, anything dealing with
Mm,
first party delivery optimization, anything dealing with app development and website development. And honestly, I'll even go as far as to say activations and PR need to be out external as well.
mm, mm,
You
mm.
need to utilize most of the PR agencies, the really really good PR agencies. I just got done working with a really good PR agency in All Points PR based in Chicago, and their relationships, because they're not hemorrhaged by only dealing with an internal company and only being internal to a brand, it allows for you to be able to spread your wings and be in
Yeah.
publications and be on places and be in places that you normally wouldn't be in if you just had one person internally focusing on all the PR, right? Because most times, and we know this nowadays, most publications, if they see it's coming directly from a brand and they don't have a relationship with that person on the brand side, they're gonna probably push that email to the side, man. I got
Yeah.
100 emails directly from brands, but it's the relationships that a lot of PR agencies have now that can really be sufficeable. And then anything dealing with technology and software from a marketing standpoint, I'm certainly looking at it from there. And then for me, I'm always going to, and anytime I get into any organization, I'm always going to take on the media and advertising component.
Mm.
It's very very difficult for, and I know it feels like that. It's very difficult for any agency to come to me and pitch me on them taking over my media and advertising. It's because it's my coup de grace,
That's
man.
your background, your experience. So like it's an area of comfort for you to yeah, that you know better than probably they do. Whereas there may be other areas where they know better, like to your point about having, PR relationships and that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely. That's how I see it.
Um, so I got one more kind of marketing related question, then we'll jump into some fun questions just to wrap things up.
Hey,
So the question is there a specific campaign or program, either at Big Chicken or Bojangles or somewhere else in your past that you worked on that taught you a valuable lesson, either because it was a flop and it taught you something you really needed to learn, or it was a big success that you'd maybe like to emulate again in the future?
yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. When I talk about the component of, brands are buying into who you are genuinely. That component brings me to one specific experience when I was at Bojangles. We had gotten a new CMO, Tom Bolin. Tom Bolin had come from the world, I mean, literally the world leaders in media and advertising. And he just understood how to be able to, he still understands. I mean, I still talk to him now, but he understands how to be able to utilize media and advertising. But he was trying to figure out how to be able to maximize where we can get impressions and opportunities and reach and all of those things by what we had on the menu. And so in one of our first conversations we had when he got the Bo, he was like, "Man, tell me about something. You're one of the only people here in the organization that have experienced Bojangles your entire life. Tell me
Hmm.
of an experience that you've had with Bojangles that most others probably won't know about." And I started telling him about the story of the bird dog. And
Hmm.
the bird dog is just a chicken tender in a hot dog bun that I learned about from my dad when I was a kid playing Pop Warner
Hmm.
football in Winston-Salem. He was always one of my coaches, and he literally, one day kind of trying to feed the team, came with a box of Supremes. He was like, "Man, I don't feel like putting all of these hot dogs on the grill. I'll just take a chicken tender and put them inside of a hot dog bun, and it's still with the same condiments and all of that stuff." And we didn't know it was called a bird dog. We just thought it was something that was just really good. It was delightful. It was delectable. It tasted really great. And later on in life, having this conversation with Tom, I told him about that experience. And seeing Tom take that and go full speed ahead. I mean, literally weeks later, we were doing A/B testing in markets on this bird dog, and it sold like crazy.
Wow.
And then after
Huh.
that, man, we rolled it out to the entire system. And at the time, I don't know if that's the case now. At the time, and when I left Bojangles, this was the biggest or the highest selling LTO for the year at that time when I left. It was the bird dog, and it was like, yo, this
Wait,
was just off of
remind us what LTO is.
LTOs are
Limited time
limited
offer,
limited
right?
time offer. So
Right.
yeah, so
Okay.
and Bojangles is probably the master at LTOs.
Okay.
Bowberry biscuits, cinnamon biscuits, all of these things, and now Bowberry cookies and all that good stuff they got on the menu. But yeah, man, it was I think for that year, the bird dog ended up becoming the highest selling LTO limited time offer for the year at Bojangles. And
Oh, that's cool.
this all sparked from me just having
This
a conversation with him.
this wasn't a product that Bojangles sold back in the day. You're saying your dad went to the store and bought a bunch of hot dog buns and bought a bunch of chicken tenders at Bojangles and then put it together. And that was a
Yeah.
common thing to do, but it wasn't specifically a Bojangles menu item
Yeah,
back
it
then.
wasn't a Bo. Yeah, it wasn't a
Okay.
Bojangles menu item, and it became a staple inside of our household. I mean, once we
Yeah.
got introduced to it, and this was just a
Right, right,
dad just
right.
kind of having
It was
some,
easy, easy, easy dinner if you
easy
don't want,
dinner.
yeah,
Yeah, man,
yeah,
culinary kind of. You would have looked
yeah.
at. I would have told him like unfortunately my father passed, but I would have told him, hey man, you were a culinary genius, man. Look at this thing
Right,
that you created,
right.
right? So ultimately, man, it became something that was incredible. I was very, very impressed with the rate of speed. And what it taught me was that your genuine experiences, who you really truly are, and what you've done are things that people love to know about. It's the
Yeah,
old
yeah,
adage,
yeah.
man. People buy from who they like, man. And in this situation, it became, people will love the things that have a genuine story and reflection that goes
And
with
they're
it.
authentic. Well, and also kudos to Tom for Bolin for asking the question about, hey, tell me about some of your experiences. And also, you think about uh, how that became obviously a successful menu item for
Yeah,
Bojangles. Kudos to the company for saying, look, we're going to try this new thing and see how it works. And restaurant is an interesting marketing uh, uh, dynamic. There's an interesting marketing dynamic in restaurants because I think restaurants are one of the few marketing professions where the head of marketing can have a profound impact on the menu, on the
yeah,
product. Most
absolutely.
marketing jobs, most marketing jobs, you don't have any impact on the product. Your job is to highlight the best features of the product and communicate those with the right audience of people that would be interested in buying that thing.
Correct.
But in restaurant, you can actually impact the product and the
Yeah,
menu. So
yeah,
it's a little unique, I
yeah.
think, in the marketing world.
It was interesting to see that happen in real time at Bojangles. Before Tom got there, the culinary team was separate. It was kind of like that bridge department between ops and
Mhm.
supply chain and marketing. And then when they got there, Tom had the bright idea to say, "Hey, man, I think culinary needs to live inside of marketing. Like we need to be innovating and reinvigorating and re-innovating this menu." It had gotten, everybody was used to Bojangles being big bowl boxes and chicken biscuits and tea. And Tom said, "Hey man, let's go shake this menu up. Let's go take some chances. Let's really dial into the Bowberry the Bowberry product. And so that would have required him to be able to have daily conversations, sometimes multiple times a day conversations with culinary. And so kudos to the senior level management there and the board for being willing to allow that to happen. And very similar when I was at Big Chicken, we started to do the exact same thing. We started to infuse culinary into the department for marketing because we needed to have some ideas, some fresh new ideas on different chicken
Yeah.
sandwich offerings and limited time offers. And we wanted to do some fun things, and I think they're still going to be able to do some great and fun things because now they've made that change.
Awesome. All right, we're going to wrap things up with a couple of rapid fire just for fun, not really specifically marketing. So first, I'm curious if there's a book or a movie or a quote or a sports team or a band or whatever that inspires you, and what is it about that thing that inspires you most?
Yeah, honestly, man, it's easy for me to go straight to North Carolina Central University, right? My alma
Hmm.
mater. It's not only the school that I went to that I met my wife at, but both of my parents went there, my grandparents went
Hmm.
there,
Wow.
my wife's father went there, her aunt went there. I have countless aunts and uncles who went there, and so I'm very, very tied in and tapped into that institution, and that institution is special. It's very, very different, having known who the founder is and understanding his story and his engagement with co-founding Mechanics and Farmers Bank and North Carolina Mutual Insurance. And he was
Oh, wow.
man, this guy was an incredible savant and started a school in the early 1900s that now has impacted my family. And I'm not here today if that institution is not in place. And so that's something that I would say is kind of an inspiration and impact for me.
I love it. Eh, so outside of your family, which is an easy choice, where do you find joy? Do you have hobbies or anything that you love to do?
Man, golf and a ton of college football, man. Golf and a ton of college football. I also happen to be the co-founder of a digital network called HBCU Nightly, where we
Hmm.
have a series of podcasts talking about HBCU basketball, football, baseball, softball as well. And then I'm also the co-founder of the Black College Invitational Championship, which is a national invitational tournament, postseason national invitational tournament held here in Charlotte at the Bojangles Coliseum. No pun intended to
Wow.
Bo that kicked off this week. Here, I know this is going to air later, but kicked off this week here in Charlotte. We got a bunch of Division I and Division II programs that are coming to the
Huh.
area to play in this postseason tournament, first of its kind, specifically for HBCU. So I spend a lot of my time doing that, man. Those are the things I'm passionate about:
That's
golf,
awesome.
football, basketball, business, and then in sports, man.
Okay, last question. Is there a brand that you've never worked on that you really admire? And what is it about that brand that you admire the most?
Yeah, man, I have one brand that like is
Okay.
like my favorite brand in the world, man, and it really is. It's Nike.
Hmm.
Nike for me is the gold standard when it comes to marketing. Um, I had an opportunity to interview for a role with Nike a long time ago, and I was like such a huge fan of just even the process. Right? Didn't end up getting the job, didn't end up getting the opportunity. Other things kind of permitted itself, but ultimately, man, that brand, that company, the Nike brand is something that I would say is one that's kind of aspirational for me. And listen, Nike, if you got any opportunities in the future,
What is it about the Nike brand that appeals so much to you? Because I mean, there's also other shoe brands, there's
yeah.
also other, companies that do cool, innovative things. So what is it about Nike that really resonates so much?
Yeah, man. My professor at North Carolina Central, Dr. Daryl Banks, introduced to me the different levels of brand engagement, right? The different levels of brand loyalty. And at the highest of that being brand affinity, right? And so he
Hmm.
introduced the concept of brand affinity and how people who love these brands, they'll ingratiate their entire lives around those brands. And when you think about that in the shoe industry, there's no one bigger. And just the athletic apparel industry and just sports in general, honestly.
Hmm.
I've always described Nike as a sports brand that sells apparel. They're a sports brand that sells apparel.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah.
always described them as that. And so, as a person who absolutely loves sports uh, and not so much of a fan of apparel, as much as I am a humongous fan of sports, all of my
Hmm.
favorite athletes, all of the athletes that I've always thought about, all of my favorite brands, as far as from just an integration and brand congruence and just having relationships, in some way, shape, or form, man, they have Nike involved. And so for me, that's why I say that it's Nike's ability to be able to move human beings to that place of affinity, and really they stay there, man, for life, man. There are people who are Nike lifers who, no matter what country they're in or where they are or what their settings are, they will stand in line for Nike for anything, for socks, for
Right.
shoes, for just a basketball, for their athletes signing things. That's why I love the brand Nike, man.
Very cool. All right. So Joshua Sims Sr. is the Chief Marketing Officer of Noble Food and Pursuits, which is a group of different restaurants and concepts. Joshua, this has been such a joy to have this conversation with you. Thank you so much for the time together.
Absolute pleasure, man. Joe, thank you so much. And man, you guys have a phenomenal job. And I really enjoyed this time. Thank you guys so much.